Modals of permission and prohibition. So we use modals of permission to give permission to someone to do something, to ask for permission from someone to do something, and finally to express that something is prohibited. And prohibited means it is not permitted, okay? It is not allowed. So give permission, ask for permission, and express that something is not permitted. In today's lesson, we will be looking at these modals: can, could, may, can't, and must not. So let's start here with can. Well, actually, first, let's look at the form. Let's do a very quick revision on the form of modals. So a modal is a type of auxiliary verb. And this is the form in the affirmative. We have the subject, and then the modal, and then we have the base form of the verb. And it's very important that you understand the form of the modal does not change. So for each subject, the modal does not change. Now let me give you an example of that. So we can say, I may run, you may run, this is you singular, he, she, or it may run, we may run, you may run, this is you plural, and they may run. So for each subject, notice that the modal remains the same, does not change the form. Okay, so we have subject, modal, and then the base form of the verb. So this is the affirmative, and if it's a question, we invert the order, we change the order of the subject and the modal. So for a question we would have modal, then subject, then the base form of the verb. For example, may I run? Okay. So let's start with can. So we use can to ask for permission, And this is quite informal. Example, can we sit here? So here we have the order that I mentioned earlier. We have the modal first, then the subject, and then the base form of the verb, because this is a question form. So we change the order slightly. Can we sit here? Can my dogs go in the garden? Can I smoke in the house? So we're using can to ask for permission. We can also use can to give permission to somebody. We're giving permission to someone. And again, this is quite informal. They can leave their bags here. Okay, they can leave their bags here. Subject, modal, base form of the verb. This is an affirmative statement. We're giving permission. You can use my phone. So I'm giving you permission to use my phone. Subject, modal, base form of the verb. Okay, so we use can both for asking and for giving permission. Could. We use could to ask for permission, and this is more formal and more polite than can. And we can only use could to ask for permission. We do not use could to give permission. Okay, so it's only for asking. That's very important. So 3 examples. Could I borrow your pen, please? Could I borrow your pen, please? Modal, subject, base form of the verb. And this is the question form. Could we watch TV? Okay, so we're asking for permission to watch TV. Modal, subject, base form of the verb. Could I use your computer, please? Okay, so I'm asking for permission to use your computer. Modal, subject, base form of the verb. And as I said earlier, it is only for asking for permission with could. We do not give permission with could. May. We use may to ask for permission. And this is more formal. This is the most formal modal of all of them. May I see your ticket, please? Okay, so we're asking permission to see your ticket. And this looks like passport control. Okay, so we're at the border. The student asks, because it's in the middle of an exam, the student asks, may I go to the toilet, please? So the student is asking for permission to go to the toilet. Modal, subject, and the base form of the verb, because this is the question form. And we can also use may to give permission. Okay, and again, this is quite formal. You may eat your lunch at your desk. You may eat your lunch at your desk. So the manager is giving permission for you to eat your lunch at your desk. Okay, subject, modal, base form of the verb. And employees may park their cars in the office car park. So this looks like a sentence. This is something perhaps that a manager would write in an email. Or maybe it's on a sign in the staff room. Okay, employees may park their cars in the office car park. So employees have permission to park their cars in the office car park. So we have the subject, and this is going to be the third person plural. Employees, may is the modal, and park is the base form of the verb. Now, prohibition. So this is almost like the opposite of permission. So if something is prohibited, it is not permitted. It is not allowed. Okay, so it's a big no. No, this is not permitted. And we use these modals to express prohibition. Can't, which is the negative of can, and must not, okay, which is the negative of must. Okay, so let's look at these examples. Can't. So we use can't when something is against the rules. We can't sell alcohol to children. We can't sell alcohol to children. So this means that we are not permitted to sell alcohol to children. Why? Because it's against the rules. In fact, it is against the law. Okay? We can't sell alcohol to children. Subject, modal in the negative, the base form of the verb. You can't park there. Okay, so if you see this sign, it obviously means that you can't park there. Okay, subject, modal, base form of the verb. We can't smoke inside the building. So if you see this sign inside the building, it means that you can't smoke there. Okay, you are not permitted to smoke inside the building. It is not allowed. Okay, subject, modal, base form of the verb. Must not. And we use must not to express what is not permitted. And it's usually on signs. So we see must not on official signs. And I found three real examples for you that I have seen. This is a very common one at the side of the train tracks in England or in the United Kingdom. Passengers must not cross the line. Must not cross the line. The line meaning the railway line, okay, or the railway track. So passengers, it is not permitted for passengers to cross the line. Motorcycle helmets must not be worn within these premises. Okay, so here in fact we're using must not, and then we're using the passive voice, must not be worn. Okay, worn is the past participle of wear, like you wear clothes or you wear a helmet. Must not be worn. And premises, it means buildings, or yes, the buildings. Okay. Children must not play on this site. Okay, must not play on this site. So it is not permitted for children to play on this site. It is not allowed. Okay, so we often see this on official signs. Okay, so that's the end. If you're preparing for the IELTS exam, then click here for information about our course. And here are some other videos that I recommend.